Welcome back to another episode of the Instant Celebrity Maker. Today, I've got a true pioneer in the voiceover IP business, Mr. Bobby Chico Perez. Say hello, Bobby. Chico.
How you doing?
He's got three names. I'm kind of jealous. I'm just Mitch Carson. He's got Bobby Chico Perez. So I because we've had a little bit of conversation, and so all of you know, I'm going to refer to him as Chico because that's his nickname. And in the community of friendship, we'll use a nickname because that's a lot more endearing. So Bobby or Chico, got to correct myself here. How would your friends describe you? Tell us a little bit about what they would say about you if they didn't think you were listening.
I would say that they would say I'm in one word. I would say centered. I'm very centered. I mean, the list goes on, but I would say centered because of my outlook in life. And my biggest thing that I focus on in life is called balance.
Okay.
So I like to have balance in life, which is very challenging to do, but I always promote that with my friends.
So centered, interesting. Balanced, I've heard, but centered, that's good. All right. You never played pinball, have you?
No, I have not.
Okay, well, I've got a couple years on you, but when we didn't have the digital games. We played the manual pinball machines. And if it went off out of balance, it went on tilt. That's where the expression comes from, because it would say tilt, and you'd have to fix it and unplug the machine and plug it back in to play pinball again. So that's interesting. So it would be out of balance. Okay, well, that's great. So you're a balanced guy. Yes. And let's jump right in. So what is your greatest accomplishment? And that could be personal or business.
Good question. So I'm going to go more personal.
Okay.
I'm going to say my greatest accomplishment is connecting with self. Something that people take a lifetime to do, searching for, needing guidance. And when I say connecting with self is I know thyself. And that leads me to have different qualities in life, confidence. That right there just helps me to connect with other people, and the way I treat them, obviously, is a reflection of how I treat myself. So knowing myself, I respect self and love myself like that. So that same sense I look at, it's a reflection towards people. So I treat everybody the same way that I would treat myself.
Well, okay, in your professional world, you're a voiceover IP specialist. Sure. Okay. But what I also noticed on your LinkedIn profile, well, number one, you didn't have your headshot, which is weird. I didn't know who I'd be talking to. But here, I see you now. And you also mentioned something about being an herbalist, right?
Yes.
Tell me about that. I found that interesting. And that's not something most people would talk about. But let's go ahead and dig into the personal, Chico.
Sure. So I have studied Tai Chi and Qigong for over 22 years, or well over 22 years. I've been meditating. And so back in 2011, opened up a non-for-profit company. It's called Feel. It started off with Herbs for Lives, and then it transitioned to Feel as far as getting into the Board of Education systems and implementing these programs to meditate for the kids here in Marietta. At that same point, I'm meeting people, and I mean cognitive medicine basically to help with ailments basically. So I'm very proficient with traditional Chinese medicine, do acupuncture, cupping, and so there's a lot of people that very familiar with. They come say, "Hey, I got this problem," and I kind of just create either pill form, teeing, in order to help them cure their alignment or fix the ailment. So
now, when you see, I've known a few people that have studied Qigong, and Qigong also is involved with the martial arts in China. It goes with it. Is that also part of your background? Did you study any of the Kung Fu?
Okay. I did. So the traditional Tai Chi. So there's different forms that people can use it for exercise, but the true Tai Chi, pivoting, balancing, knowing the anatomy and how to actually use it for martial arts. It's kind of where I studied that. So yeah, I've been doing it for well over 20 years. So I think now that I'm say again?
The Tai Chi and okay. So,
yeah, yes.
oh, interesting. So that is centered and balanced. Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. And I know that some of the African religions also incorporate a component of using herbs and medicine. So it's not
Correct.
just the Chinese. I don't know which came first. That's maybe another discussion another day. But I know that there's a lot to be said about natural herbs for healing.
Absolutely.
That's great. And that keeps you balanced and centered.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, tell us, what would you have wish you had known when you started out? If you could turn the clock back.
The effect of technology. If me knowing what I know now, starting out, say this was going to be this kind of effect with people, businesses, and so on, it would have been it would have been so light to me. I would have took it so heavier and kind of just spearheaded on instead of just kind of flowing with things. Usually I flow with things, but knowing that, I've more likely would have been more assertive with the whole thing.
Okay. All right. Well, a little more aggressive with the approach, but and what is Chico curious about right now?
The next steps of where we as people are heading to, and that kind of follows my last answer, knowing moving forward in the future, the effects, there's always a cause. I believe in cause and effect. So we as people, what is our trajectory collectively? And it could be in any field you want to, or any aspect in life. But we as people, what is our trajectory moving to at this point? So I'm curious to see where we're going.
Okay. Maybe, for example, like global warming, which is a factor. I mean, some of these things, like in July, we had the hottest month in history. I mean, does that matter?
Absolutely. Okay. Because that has an effect on all of us. As I mentioned, there's the cause and effect of things. And so, once we understand the cause, we kind of get an idea on the effect somewhat. But that plays definitely a role on the way that we move collectively.
As a race. Yeah, sure. Okay. Tell me about something you failed at.
So being in the telecommunications field,
Yes.
There's always going to be some kind of failure, right? And I think that's and I think that's the single biggest point in doing engineering, right? So of course, I've came across many projects, and one of them is, of course, failing at a project like that, or having a magnitude scale. So one of the things that I was working on was I was part of when Southwest acquired AirTran. I was hired in order to migrate the AirTran network into Southwest network. So they had many, I think it was about 4 reservation centers, which is the call centers. And Southwest at the time, the network was pretty much behind. This was in 2011. The machines were still on, I want to say, Windows XP.
Okay.
So was pretty much behind. So at the same time, I kind of failed at one of the call centers going live, turning them up. And I'm a person that learn as I go. So I think that's my biggest thing is learning, right? Make sure that you learn. And mistakes are going to happen, failures are going to happen, but as long as you learn from that, I think anybody can attest that's the most important aspect of it. So it didn't go so well turning up that call center. So and I guess it's not attention to detail. It was just learning the both networks, and migrating them. So I consider that a failure point for me, but also a win because I've learned and since have not repeated the same mistake.
Okay, well then that's a growth point. Yeah,
Absolutely.
if you learn from it, then it truly is a failure. But if you haven't, if you haven't learned from it, it is a failure. But if you've learned from it as a growth experience, then it's no longer a failure. It's a matter of perspective, isn't it?
Agreed.
Okay, now my favorite question. I love asking this question. I'm a history buff, is my rationale behind it. And this tells me about you. If you could have coffee or a drink or a tea, whatever it is that you wish to enjoy, or some herbs, but who would you choose to have that beverage with? And you can go back as far as you want, but he's got to be, he or she has to be passed on.
I would say I would pick Alan Watts.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I would love to have a conversation with an inquiring mind.
There's the tech guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
Alan Watts. Explain who he is, because some people may not know who he is.
So I'd consider him as a philosopher, naturally from England. He had such a very unique insight and perspective on life, and philosophically, he would help people, kind of evolve as far as perception wise on life and how to kind of get past these internal struggles or obstacles that we face just based on perception. Sometimes we look at things the wrong way, and it keeps us locked. So Alan Watts was a person that I would recommend looking into as far as wanting to kind of broaden your perception in life. And the way he speaks about things, he kind of puts it simple. Simplicity is the key. So I'd say that.
I think I studied him, if I'm going back, and I'm maybe revealing my age a little bit, I think he was in Philosophy 101. Would he have been covered in that? If I'm going back to his college years. Correct. Okay, that's where it's like, okay, I thought, correct. I remember studying him, but I think it was in philosophy. It would have been, I found philosophy quite interesting. So, okay, good. And now let's go more current. Who's been your most important professional mentor?
Oh, that's easy.
Now we're a little bit more current.
Yeah, that's pretty easy. I would say my father.
Oh, tell me about him.
So my father was a very old school guy. He was military, 20 years. And he's very direct. And I learned from him, speak only when spoken to. So he's not one to kind of just speak loosely. And so when he was in the military, in the Army, he was in communications. That's what got me get into the whole telecommunications field. And, just kind of throughout my years, doing it for about 18, 19 years, being in the voice IP field, I've always went to him on many things about how the approach of things and, the mentality to carry. And he's been there to kind of help me through a lot of that as far as being as field. Because I know he's seen a lot. And he'd been in the Gulf War, a lot of the wars back in the early 90s. He was deployed out. So dealing with the communications aspect of things, he's given me great insight on how to tackle things that, either I come across or I'm just inquiring about. So he's been a great professional mentor for me.
That's awesome. And it's family. That's awesome. Love to hear it. All right. Now a little bit different. If you could go back and give your 18-year-old Chico one piece of advice, what would that one piece of advice be for the young Chico? Well, you're still young. Let's just say young.
Sure. I would say be attention to detail. Being young, we're not so much, and I say it loosely, but being young, we're not usually attention to detail. We're not so intricate to the things that can play a role on a lot of our outcomes. I would go back and say, listen, pay attention to exactly what you're doing, what's happening around you. And then this kind of goes back. Then I would have known, oh, I didn't know, voice RP would have, jumped up this high. Like paying attention to the detail, I would have caught on and, kind of jumped on the wave a little more differently. So detail is very important to me.
Okay. All right. Well, it makes sense in your line of work. All right.
Sure.
In your either personal and business life, let's talk about both here. What's your plan to achieve your goals?
That's a good one. Every day I'm writing to see how I can do that, right? And as long as I stay true to ideally what I need to be done, what needs to be done, one of the things is I've learned that I've always been a person about my brain, right? Using it like very much, right? It's like a muscle. So sometimes I think slip through the cracks. So I'm starting to learn, okay, well, write things down now. If we're in a new day and age, use the phone calendar reminder, things like that. It's going to help me get past to where I know that the small things will keep me back. So I think that just being more, it's kind of crazy to say, but I would say being tedious, that, to everything that I need to be doing. Repetition is, where is it at for me? Being consistent every day. That's the secret to success from what I understand from the things that I've read. It's the daily habits. So
you are so spot on. I have my own routine. I'll tell you at another time, but I believe in rituals. You're talking about rituals, setting
sure.
a pattern. It's almost a programming of self to get. And totally agree. And that does make a difference. And
Great. Yes.
Okay. Now the feeling question. How will you feel in the case that if you don't achieve your goal, either personal or
it's a little it's kind of hard for me to answer that in a way respectfully, because I haven't experienced yet. At some point I've always achieved a goal that I've always had, I set out to.
Well, what if it's got a time to it and you don't meet the time? That's an example. Let's say if you want, like if you were, whatever that is. Let's say personally, if you wanted to be able to bench 400 pounds. I mean, I'm just pulling a number. I don't know how big you are. Let's say 300 pounds. I mean, and if you were to say, I'm going to do that by the end of the year, so you got to go and pound in the gym as an example.
I'm more likely going to feel, I know for a fact, determined.
Okay.
Because I know for a fact that the end result, it's not like I can ever achieve it. I know that I will. It's just based on when. So I'm a person, determination is definitely a key for me. I'll feel more determined and just go back to the drawing board, figure it out, and get back at it. So.
Okay. How do you overcome a challenge when it's thrown at you? And we know this is called life, man. This is called life. Things happen unexpectedly.
Sure. I definitely have experienced a lot of that. I'm one to internalize. And again, so I incorporate, if I could say this, my spirituality into a lot of things I do in life, right? And that's what keeps me centered. But I internalize for things, I go within and I look within, and usually that's what helps me. But aside from that, my answer to that would be, I would use my circle, and I think a lot of people forget that, and I don't know if it's going to be ego wise or anything like that, but having a circle support is the biggest thing that we tend to forget about, right? Because we want to kind of go at it and get it done for ourselves, but it's nothing wrong with looking to the right, say, going to my father or going to a great friend or somebody that, can definitely help you. And just, it could be, advice, just insight that it can help you. So how I come over is just making sure that I utilize my circle. That's very important to me.
I love that. I live by the same principle, because if I don't have an answer, it's within a phone call or a text, if you will, today. In many cases, it's usually I use my thumbs, and then maybe it's a phone. That's great.
Nice.
Okay, Now, this is what I have found with most people. My next question is, they have it in them, but they just don't know how to put it to print or put it into action. But everybody's got a unique story. I mean, you're a tech guy in the communications field with this very spiritual side to you, which makes you unique, I would say. A little bit different than a lot of the other people I have interviewed. So if you had to write a book tomorrow, Chico, what would you write about?
That's great, because actually, I've been very, I've been at a place that I'm going to write a book. Right,
Okay.
it's been on my plate. So, if I had to write a book, and what I would write it about, basically, how your spirituality, your personal beliefs, how that flows into the outside life, basically, right? Meaning dealing with people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some people say, well, it's personal. It is, but is a reflection to how you deal with people, your relationships, how you speak, things of that nature. There's a correlation between the inside and the outside. So I would write about basically the three aspects of the mind, body, and of course your I would say the inner development. Let's say that. Let's say inner development.
As opposed to soul. You have
Correct. Correct.
mind, body,
Correct.
soul, and okay. Oh,
Agreed.
okay.
Yeah. So line those three. I would talk about how to line those three, and you can see, in your awakening, like when you're dealing with life, how you would see the effects of those when you align those three.
Okay. Well, you didn't know exactly what I was going to ask in this interview today, but if I could have asked you a particular question, what would it be, and how would you have answered? So if you could have taken control, Mitch, I want people to know this about me. Essentially, is a rephrasing of that.
I think you ask very great questions. Truthfully, the reason why I'm happy with the questions that you asked, because Blank Point Communications is not just a company that we provide service to, right? It's very personal because that's traditionally the way businesses were in America. You come into somewhere, they knew your name. Hey, Bobby, how you doing? It was very personal. You felt comfortable. That's part of customer service. And so you giving the people an opportunity to get to know me personally can make them feel like they personally know me. And that builds a beginning relationship with getting, potential customers, clients, or whoever just wants to do business with Blank Point. It's not just business anymore. Now they can believe that, because there's a saying, you don't mix personal and business together. However, I believe that you can, to an extent, making it very personal as far as the relationship and business, because there is relationships. So I think by you asking the questions you did, it's perfect. It was for me to answer if I wanted to bring in, professional like Blank Point, but now it was just perfect questions as what you asked personally for me.
Okay. Well, how can we support you, and or how can I support you to help you? I know that people can get in touch with you on a business level or personal level. I mean, you've revealed some things that are unique to you, but you've got your money making, which is through blankpoint.co. And how can we support you better?
Just check us out. If you need service, we're here for you. I know the telecom field has kind of been saturated, but on the caveat side of that, that this whole COVID thing has filtered out a lot of, it's unfortunate, but it's filtered out a lot of businesses that either have quality or bad quality. So we're here to show the test of time that we have great, superior quality of service, not just within our services, but within our products as well. But if support can be just, if anybody that needs cloud service, voice over IP service, phone, a hosted phone system, carrier connectivities for our SIP trunks, PRI trunks, call center solutions, we're here. So we're here to show other guys that customer service is superior now.
Okay.
So,
and personal question, what would you say about your guest experience on the show?
10 out of 100 out of 10, you
Oh
know.
my God.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah. Great vibes. I'm real big on vibes. So I would say nothing but the best. I was kind of a little like, I wonder how to go, but as soon as speaking with you, there was a connection. You flow very well, Mitch. Nothing but great things to you. Great compliments. I love the experience. I would love to do it anytime again. So
All right. Well, let's ask this. What would you say is your final word? Thank you for that accolade. I do appreciate it. So,
sure,
how would
sure.
you like to leave your viewers here? Because this will be broadcast on different channels. I mean, we have the live component today, and then people will watch this, and that's the beauty of a podcast. They can watch it at their own, during their own time frame.
Sure. Final words. I would say stay true to stay true to self. Let's get back to who we are as people. And those are the things that lead us to where we need to be, whether it be on a business wise, getting service with a good company that you need, or creating a new relationship with somebody that you also need. Um, Go within. It's a lot of people kind of look at the outside. If you have the outside, then I'll feel better, or it's kind of quite the opposite. So
Okay.
trust
Right.
self.
Well, this has been another great interview with Bobby Chico Perez, voiceover IP expert, and we'll see you next time. Thank you,
Thank
Bobby.
you. Thank you.